Well, in a moment, we will be in Brussels to speak to Maeve McMahon. But first of all, let's head over to Westminster, where our political editor, Darren McCaffrey, is outside the Houses of Parliament. Darren, the defeat was expected, but 149 votes. What does that mean for Theresa May?
Yeah, another humiliating day for the British Prime Minister yesterday. Bell, yes, as you have well noted, it was well done on that historic defeat that Theresa May suffered back in January. But be in no doubt, it was still devastating for Theresa May. The fourth biggest defeat a sitting government has ever faced in the history of the UK Parliament. And yet again, on not just any piece of legislation, but essentially the raison d'etre of the UK government to try and get a withdrawal agreement through the UK Parliament. Now, it should be noted, of course, that Theresa May did manage to convince some of her own MPs to back her improved deal, most notably people like David Davis, the former Brexit secretary, and critics like Nadine Dorries, but simply not enough of them. And that is why the British newspapers this morning make for pretty bad reading, it must be said, for Theresa May. The Times here in London saying, driven to despair, Britain in crisis as May's plan is crushed. The FT newspaper saying May loses control after MPs throw out a revamped deal. The I newspaper simply with the headline, Bell, out of control. And maybe the feeling of the country this morning may be summed up by the Metro newspaper, which is, sorry, we haven't got a clue. It is very difficult. Brexit marred in crisis as MPs snub May yet again.
We've got, of course, this vote in Parliament today. Parliament, as you say, the newspaper is saying it's really taken over control of this whole Brexit process today. MPs will vote on whether the UK can leave the EU without a deal in place. Is that likely to be knocked down?
So, as you say, the Prime Minister has been forced into this position where essentially she's had to give up control of this process, having suffered those two humiliating defeats. She may well be in power, but she certainly is not in charge of this Brexit process. And that means that, yes, today she is having to offer a free vote to her own MPs on whether Britain should rule out leaving with no deal. Now, you have to remember, Theresa May has repeatedly said for the last, 2.5 years that no deal is better than a bad deal. She herself may today move away from that position. The reason she's having to have a free vote rather than whip her own MPs, which is extraordinary given the significance of the legislation or the motion that will be voted on, is simply she cannot guarantee that many within her cabinet and ministers will not resign because they do not want to see Britain crash out of the European Union in 16 days' time. And that then leads on to Thursday's vote, where Parliament will yet again vote on whether it wants to extend the Article 50 process. Yet again, Theresa May has argued that this should not happen. She says that the British public want to leave the EU on March 29th. But again, because she's not in control of this process, she's had to offer this vote to MPs. Now, it is possible, of course, Bell, that MPs may later on today decide that they don't want a no-deal Brexit, but not on Thursday extend Article 50. I think that is unlikely. I think where we may well end up on Thursday evening is that Britain will, in theory at least, have ruled out no deal, if not legally, and that we will be looking at the mechanism of doing that is an extension to Article 50, or at least asking Brussels to extend this Brexit process.
All right, thank you very much, Darren. Well,